Welcome, everybody, to the Competition Archery Media Podcast, where we explore all things pertaining to competition archery. I'm your host, PJ Riley, and our CAM podcast is brought to you by O'Neill's Classic Archery. And here we are. I've been waiting to talk to this guy for 2 weeks now. We were delayed, so we're just getting to it now. But Keith Ahlstrom, Senior Pro with the ASA, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, PJ.
And we, of course, wanted to talk to Keith because he won his first ever pro-level ASA tournament at the biggest event of the year, the ASA Classic. Keith, what has the last 2 weeks been like since you won that?
Oh, it's been pretty good. Lots of calls and messages from friends and fellow archers, family. Lots of congratulations and attaboys, and it's been pretty fun.
Did you change your underwear yet, or are you still keeping that magic going from the Classic?
No, I'm saving those for Foley.
Gotcha. So Keith, that was one of the Senior Pro Shootdown that day was one of the exciting ones. There was lots of back and forth action, lead changes and stuff. But, you know, and it's hard to, for me anyway, to remember sometimes, it's only 6 shots. I mean, it's not a long competition there at the end, but tell us for you, and you've been in shootdowns before, but how did that one go for you?
It was slower, a much slower pace than normal. You know, I remember my first shootdown ever, and it went by so fast that it was like a blur. I don't remember setting my sights before I went to the next target, or I would forget when I got to the target, and you've only got a minute. And Callaway would usually be with me, and he's like, "Man, knock an arrow, you got to set your sight," and he's trying to tell me because it's just so fast.
Yeah.
But this time it slowed way down, and I was able to listen to Mike and hear the scores, and I was paying attention to the other shooters to see. It was just a total different experience than all the other shootdowns I've been in.
Yeah. And you went into this one after the weekend. I believe you were, how many points behind Jeff?
1.
Oh, it was just 1 point. Okay.
1 point behind Jeff, yep.
So when you go in there and Jeff Hopkins, you've shot against him, you know what he's capable of, what was your game plan going in? What were you thinking you needed to do, wanted to do? Besides just hit every 12.
Right. Well, my game plan stayed exactly the same. The same plan I used all season, all weekend, was just to, get my numbers, try to trust my numbers, and, hit as many bonus rings as I can. And it's and most people do, I've struggled hitting bonus rings in shoot downs. I get there, but under pressure, I just cracked and I didn't do well. And that's been getting a little bit better as the year. I made 4 this year, so it got better. It gets easier the more you're in them,
For sure.
But this time it was just a different level of calm I had. I just had confidence, and my bow was shooting fantastic, and my numbers were good all weekend.
Yeah.
And it just worked. I stayed calm. I didn't do anything special. I didn't go, oh my God, Jeff's ahead of me by 1. I didn't have any of that in my head. I'm just going to shoot my plan, and the cards would fall where they would.
Yeah. Now you mentioned like you struggled with getting bonus rings in the shootdown. Do you think, like, how are your numbers going out there? All of a, you're shooting in the woods all weekend. All of a sudden, boom, you're here. Whether it's indoors at Minden or Foley, or outside, it's a very different setting than what you shoot the competition in.
Absolutely. Underjudged everything in the shoot down. Every shoot down I've ever been in, I was underjudging targets. And
is that right?
Yeah. And then the first few shoot downs I was in, there was a lot of nerves involved too. So, my bow didn't point so well, and I made some pretty bad shots, to be honest. There's a lot of nerves out there.
I can't even imagine.
You should try it sometime.
I like my view of it better, sitting behind the scenes, because I get nervous just watching y'all. Because obviously, I've seen you shoot for years, and Gina works with us at CAM, which I'll talk about that in a second because she's a big help. But I know how much it means to you to get your first win. And so as I see it getting closer, I'm getting nervous. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting in the booth. So I can only imagine what you're thinking as you're getting closer and closer.
The first thought that comes into my mind was, after 2 arrows, I went from second to fourth. Joe hit a 14, then shot a 12. Jeff shot 2 12s. And I didn't change it. I kept everything. I kept the plan. As one of my very good friends always tells me, stick to your game plan, and I did.
Right.
And then it worked. I hit the 14, I hit the 12, and boom, I'm in first.
Yeah.
It happened really fast.
So tell me about, now you're talking about pressure. Man, there's no more bigger pressure than your last arrow. You needed that 12 to do what you had to do. What did that arrow feel like?
It felt like the first one I shot of the shoot down, to be honest. I did not have the nerves. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just calm. It was weird because I've never been that way when I had the pressure on me.
Yeah.
So it was strange, and I don't know if it's just the maturity, maturing as I go through this, shooting with these guys and competing with them, and or the experience, from being in several shoot downs this year, and one each year leading up to here. I made 1 a year until this year, and then I made 4 this year. So I think it's a culmination of all of it, and confidence. And it was just there. It was my time.
I want to talk about your journey there in a second, but before we get off of that, and we have the capability of adding in video, so I know Kyle will add in the video of you making that last shot. Obviously, man, we got the fist pump from you, and we don't often see that from archers. I personally like seeing that, but obviously something moved you that you were like, all right. So you tell me what that was like when you realized you hit it.
It was pretty overwhelming. As you know, in my interview, I couldn't even talk.
I did notice that.
It's been a journey, and as you said, we'll talk about that in a minute, but that weekend was just a culmination of all the hard work and the hours spent after work to practice and tune and judge. And it just, like I said, when it all came together, and I knew it was going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Gina and I actually even talked about it this year. We were like, this is the year I'm going to win one this year. I didn't expect it to be the Classic. But that was just icing on the cake. But everything just piled on me at one time. If you look at the video, I didn't know whether to jump up and down or run or throw my bow in the air. It was overwhelming. It was a big deal for me.
It did seem like, I was like, well, I think he wanted to fist bump there, but I think he was going to do something too, like run around the circle. I don't know.
Cut a flip or something. Yeah. I didn't know what to do. I really didn't. But I knew when that shot broke, it was going to hit that.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to ask you. Anybody who's been in archery, when you get a good shot, you know it. And obviously you knew that one was there.
Yep. I knew it was there when it broke. And I don't remember if Mike, I think it was the crowd screaming, hollering that let me, because I never looked at the target.
Oh,
when
really?
When that arrow broke, I didn't see it hit.
No kidding.
It's weird. I can't see my arrows hit.
Okay.
If you ever watch a slow motion video of me shooting, it's a very surprise shot. You've seen me shoot before. There's no punching involved.
Yeah.
But when that shot breaks, I close my eyes every single time, and I have no idea where the arrow's going.
That's awesome. I like the honesty there too.
Yeah. Well, you know me. And I also shoot with my left eye closed. My eyes are equally dominant.
Oh, gotcha.
So, and that takes away some of that ability to see the arrow when I've got my left eye closed.
Yeah.
But I can't shoot the patch. I just can't. I can't shoot both eyes open. If I shoot both those eyes open, I see two sights.
Yep.
Two targets and two of everything that's in between.
Me too.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. I know what you mean. I can eventually shoot both eyes open, but I got to start squinting that one so my right takes over. Yeah. And then
I can't do it, but it works.
So Keith, what I really wanted to get into was, you and I have talked about this before, because you're kind of a late comer to the archery game. Tell us how you got into target archery.
Well, I've shot a bow since I was 13 years old.
Right.
And, I bought my first bow when I was 13, a Martin Cougar 2.
All right.
And I shot that bow, I hunted, I killed some animals with it. And then in high school, the FFA started having competitions with archery and rifle, 22 rifle and skeet.
Yeah.
And this was in 85. So it was just getting started. We were the first program in our school. And it was the first year, I think, that the schools actually competed in the state of North Carolina. And so I took up the archery and the skeet, and I shot that bow, and I won the archery, my sophomore, junior, and senior years in that program.
Nice.
And then after high school, I went straight in the service after high school, and spent 10 years in the Army. While I was I was stationed in Colorado at Fort Carson, and I got involved in a little archery shop in town and started shooting. And, indoor stuff. I still hunted.
Yeah.
I still hunted, and I killed a couple mule deer out there and still hunted, but there wasn't much competition going on at the time.
Right.
So fast forward a little bit, I left, went to Germany, went to Desert Storm. No shooting, no hunting, no nothing for a while. After Desert Storm, I went to the Presidio in San Francisco, and I shot a little bit there. I had a target bow. It was an indoor bow. It was the old Pearson Classic 300, and shot a little bit out in San Francisco at an outdoor range that they had in a park, but it wasn't anything serious. It was just something to do.
Yeah.
Left there, went back to Colorado, and continued, hunting and carrying on. And our unit, our post, had what they called organizational day, and all the units compete against each other. And they had an archery contest, so I got in it.
Uh-huh.
And it was this would have been in 95 or 96. It was a 3D course. Oh, well, I'd never seen a 3D target, never seen any of that. So I shot it, just like I was hunting kind of deal. And I don't remember the outcome. I don't think I won by any means or anything, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Well, I got out. And then after that, I got out, came home, and I got involved in a little archery shop locally, and started helping him a couple nights a week, just setting bows up, tuning bows, helping him get ready for hunting season. And one of the guys that come in there a good bit was like, "Man, you need to go shoot some 3D with us." And I didn't realize at the time, but there were several local clubs, and they had a little circuit. So I started shooting with them a little bit. And after about a year, another friend of mine talked me into getting an open class bow. And I was working at the archery shop, Bowtech dealer at the time. And so I got a Bowtech specialist and built it. And I started going to some archery tournaments. And then the same guy's like, "Man, you need to go shoot one of these ASAs with us. It's a big tournament. It's a lot of fun." And the very first one I shot was the last year that they were at Fort Gordon in Augusta.
Okay.
And
so about what year is that?
I was 43, so I'm 54. It was 11 years ago.
Okay.
The very first one I shot was 11 years ago.
Gotcha.
I shot one that year, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a blast. I was so nervous. I'll never forget the team shoot. I signed up for the team shoot because he told me to. You know, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And I get there, and my pro was Charles Blankenship.
Nice.
And he was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous. Like on the first target, I went to draw my bow. I couldn't even draw my bow back. I was so nervous. And I'll never forget, Charles, we looked at a target and we judged it, and he goes, I think he's 4. Well, 34 was what he was saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he said 4. I put my sight on 40, you know, right over the top of it. I mean, I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
But the next year I shot 2, I think. 2 or 3. I shot open sea.
Okay.
Which was half known and half unknown.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I started having some issues in my life, and I couldn't shoot anymore. I went through a divorce, and I shot a couple tournaments, but I didn't really put the effort into all of it.
Right.
So after the dust settled from that, I started getting serious about it. And I started shooting all the tournaments. I shot every one but Paris. I wouldn't travel to Texas. It was just too far for me.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so I went out of open C. Then I went to B. I went out of open B. And I went to open A. And I didn't win out of open A, but I had some success. I finished, I had a podium finish in Illinois in open A. A second place, I think it was. And then I was 49 years old or 48 years old, and I knew that I wanted to go into the pro class,
Gotcha.
the senior pro class.
Yeah.
So the year I turned 49, I shot semi-pro for 1 year. It was a great season. Sam Smith was in semi-pro then, and we had a great season. We battled, and I won some money. Had a podium finish in Illinois again. And, but I did not win out. Didn't win out, but it was close.
Yeah.
And then the next year I went to the senior pro class and started dealing and made a shoot down in the second tournament of the year, Augusta, when we were on the lake down there.
And this was
I made the shoot down
7 years ago?
This was 4 years ago.
4 years ago. 4 years ago. Okay.
4 years ago. Yeah, this is my 4th season shooting in the pro class.
Okay. Yeah. And your second one ever, you made the shoot down.
The second one, I think Fort Gordon, or it wasn't Fort Gordon, Augusta, down on the lake. I think that was the second tournament of the year. It was either the second or third. But anyway, that's the shoot down I made, the first one ever.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. My first target was like a 50-yard javelina across that parking lot, and I was scared to death. And Andy was out there with me, and I shot it, and he's like surprisingly, you got it, like he was shocked that I hit a 12. And then it went all downhill from there. I went in 5th, came out 5th. So
hey, but just getting there, I mean,
it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
People cheering when I walked out, all my friends, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, yeah. So that one, you'd have had some people close there, and that one was in Augusta, Georgia, so not too far.
That's right.
And while we're on that one, man, I really like that facility. I liked that setting right on the lake there. That thing was nice.
See, we would go down on Saturday before and pull my center console boat down and striper fish for 3 days before we started getting ready to shoot archery tournament. Yeah.
It
was fun.
Yeah.
I'd pull the camper and Gina would pull the boat with her truck, and we'd go down there and fish for 4 days and then start playing archery.
Oh, man. So, all right, Keith, so you're in your 4th year of the pro class, but folks, tell everybody, I mean, you are not a full-time pro archer. You run a tree trimming business, cutting business, all that.
I do. I run Ahlstrom's Tree Service. I started cutting and trimming trees about 22 years ago as I was doing other things.
Yeah.
And I did it to supplement my income when I got out of the service. I needed the extra income. I had a wife and 2 kids, and they were young, and diesel mechanic and wasn't really paying the bills. And so I started doing it, and I fell in love with it. And about 12 years ago, I decided to leave it all behind, and I left a very good job to do this.
Right.
And it was kind of scary, but it's the best decision I ever made. Well, second best decision I ever made. First best decision was Gina.
There you go. I knew you were going to say it.
But it was a good decision. And so I've been full-time in it now for a while, and the business has grown. My son, 28-year-old son, Cody, is my right-hand man. He's with me on every job, and he's been running the chainsaw since he was 10 years old.
But that's, I mean, especially when you got jobs to do, I mean, that's a job that doesn't leave a whole lot of daylight at the end of some days.
On some days, you're right. And it's not necessarily that we're working on a tree job all day. You know, when we work all day long, and then I come home, and I've got to go out and do estimates and drive all over town and take care of paperwork and payroll and equipment maintenance and, you know, everything, you know. So, yeah, it's 12, 13-hour days, a lot of days.
So when do you fit in archery practice? Because you
when I can.
When you can.
When I can.
And I mean, the senior pro class, that's an unknown distance class. So you've got that added skill that you have to develop as well, not just shooting your bow. You got to perfect that. I mean, when you're up against Jeff Hopkins, who is a human rangefinder, I mean, you got to work on that.
You do. And I have to work very hard at it. And I try to shoot my bow and judge targets every day. It doesn't always work.
Right.
But I try. And it might only be 10 minutes. You know, I've got a range here at my house. It's pretty open in my yard. Got some pines planted, but that's my bag target, my big broadhead target. And then I've got 8 targets out there. And these are 8 targets. These are like the problem children, you know, the turkey, the wolverine, the javelina, the black buck, you know. And then I've got 1 deer out there. And I shoot those if I can't get to my range, which is across the street from my house on my mother's property. If I can't get to my range, but I shoot here and I judge, you know, and I judge in the open field.
Yeah.
And that's also helped me a little bit in the shoot downs because I've been working harder on that than I have in years past. So, but yeah, I try to shoot every day, but it may only be 10 arrows.
Right. How long have you been with Elite? When did you?
This is my 3rd season.
3rd season. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. I envy you for that because those guys that's just a great place to be with Darren and Nathan and all those guys. And
it's awesome. Darren and I were talking today, and we were talking about the energy that's around the trailer at the tournaments and the people. If you look, you know, if there's 10 people at any other trailer, there's 25 at the Elite trailer.
It's just a fun place to be. It doesn't matter if you like Elite or not. It's just a fun place to hang out.
That's right. You know, Steven,
I forgot Steven Altizer. Right. Yeah.
Steven and I have been great friends for a long time. When I was shooting in open sea, I would sign up for the team shoots, and he and I always got paired together because we would pre-register. And I guess they go by alphabetical order. We were always together.
Right.
And we won a lot of money. He was shooting, back then he was shooting for Pearson and shooting Open Pro. And I was shooting Open C and then Open B. And we got to be really good friends. And we've stayed friends. And, you know, it all came together. I hadn't been with Bowtech for a long time. But I'll be honest with you, I like the technology and these new bows, the set technology,
Right.
and the things that Elite's done the past 4 years have, I mean, really, really have been good for the bows and for the people.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll tell you, this verdict that I'm shooting is without a doubt the easiest tuning, most forgiving, best aiming bow I've ever put in my hands. So I have a ton of confidence in my equipment.
It's pretty nice. And I mean, there you see Darren Christianberry. He had a heck of a year too this year. I mean,
he had an awesome year.
That's just to see what folks are doing. Alexis Ruiz just won mixed team gold there in Paris. It's pretty incredible. But
it's a good story.
Now, I wanted to talk about, you mentioned your wife, Gina. So any chance I get, so for the folks at home who follow along Competition Archery Media, you get your scoring updates. You're sitting at home. Every 5 targets. Gina and Destiny Davis, so they volunteered they started out just with the senior pro range. And I'll never forget one of the first tournaments, I'm thinking, oh, okay, I got to help out and let these ladies, go over there and offer my time. And first thing I went over was to a board in London. And unbeknownst to me, Gina had just written down the scores to start the second day. I thought they were left over from the day before, so I didn't know they were all arranged. And I went over and started to erase everything she just wrote. And so she leaned over. She's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to get your board started." She said, "I got that taken care of." She's like, "Look, stay in your lane. Go down to that next range, and you just stay there." And I said, "All right, that's it. I don't need to help them at all. So now I just stay out of their way." But Gina and Destiny now cover the women's pro and senior pro range. And, folks at home who get those scores, they're a big reason why. Every 5 targets, I mean, we just couldn't do what we do without Gina and Destiny. So I always like to publicly acknowledge them whenever I can. And besides that, Gina's just fun to be around. You just can't.
Well, I appreciate that. They do a good job. And the longer they're there, the more, in the beginning, some of the guys and some of the women weren't ugly, but, now everybody knows them. If they don't want to give score, if somebody's having a bad day and they don't want to give score, she'll be like, "Give me your cards." Or she'll reach in her pocket and take your cards, or whatever.
I was going to say, I bet you they, tried to, be whatever around her. And I'm sure Gina just put them right in their place. And they said, "Okay, now it's yes, ma'am." What do you need?
And the girls, they do more than just the scores, We get out there and we're shooting and we're focused on what we're doing. And it's hot, really hot at times. And they'll come around with bottles of water. And I watched Gina go up to Jeff one time and go, "Here, would you like a water?" "No." And she goes, "No, drink it." Because nobody was drinking water, and she made sure everybody's taken care of out there. She's always got snacks too.
Oh, all right. That one I didn't know, so I'm gonna remember. Right. I'm gonna remember that for next year.
Yeah, Destiny does too. They've always got snacks.
Yeah, great people. Just part of that. I'm guessing that's part of. You said you went to your first ASA and you just loved it, and that's one of the things I noticed with ASA. It's just good people to be around. I mean, just how can you not?
It's our favorite time of the year. We like the hunting season and everything, but we're already talking about seeing everybody at the Lancaster Classic. That's when we see everybody for the first time, or most of them. It's at Lancaster, at the indoor tournament. So it's part of our lives, and these people are part of our family.
Right.
Our closest friends are scattered all over the country, and we don't get to see them very often. But they're our closest friends. I mean, they're our archery family. And when people say archery family, they mean it.
Yeah.
It's a great group of people.
It's hard to explain that until you're there. Because I know I'm from Pennsylvania, and I knew IBO. I didn't know about ASA, and I always heard about the family atmosphere and all that, and I had my idea, but until I went there and was like, oh wow, all right,
it is.
These are just.
And when you're in it for a long time, look at some of the young open pros and the young known pros. They've spent their whole lives in there. They know everybody.
Yeah.
It is like a big family. It's really cool to watch these people come up, and the youth. And I always try to get on the youth ranges at some point during the weekend. I've got kids from North Carolina and South Carolina that I go try to watch shoot a little bit, and it's fun to get to know all these kids and watch them grow up, and you're like lifelong friends.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
The team shoot, I believe you pretty much always do that one as well now.
I do it every time.
Yeah.
I'm a believer. I may get slapped around for this a little bit, but I think they call these tournaments pro-ams. I think every pro ought to have to shoot in a team shoot. It's a great time.
I agree.
I love it. Well, it's maybe not the best practice in the world, but that's okay. You should be practiced up before you get there anyway.
Well, I want to ask you about that, because I always wondered that myself. I always see the same folks out there, yourself, Sharon Wallace, Tim Gillingham, and I always see some of the same pros. And to me, I would think that would be good practice, but maybe not at your level.
Well, it is. It's any practice. Anytime you can shoot your bow and judge targets is good practice. But what you have in the team shoot environment is the ability, or you have the effects of other people's numbers affecting your number.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, that what I meant by it's probably not the best practice. That's what I mean.
Gotcha.
Because I walk up to a target, and some days I'm good at it, some days I'm terrible at it.
Right.
And I may be off a little bit, and I got guys getting in my head telling me, no, it's not that far. No, it's not that far. And they may be right or they may be wrong, but it's always fun.
When you're out there on the Classic finals field, there's no committee to help you get that number right.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because it's more than just judging. You got to judge it, but you can miss a yard or two and still be successful on some targets because, of your game plan. How do you normally shoot that target? And how do you aim on it and whatnot? So it's a culmination of both shooting and yardage judging.
Yeah.
And it's
do you have I don't know if you're one of the ones, do you always shoot uppers or anything like that? Or
I shoot 100% uppers unless it's jammed up so much that I'm scared to try to put an arrow in it. I'll shoot all uppers. And
now why is that?
I've just found that it keeps me in the 10 ring more. I tend to underjudge.
Gotcha. Yep.
And when I first started this, I used to overjudge a lot. It's the javelina, he's a mile, and you overjudge him. But the more I've done this, I've learned that I tend to underjudge now. So it keeps me in the 10 ring more.
Gotcha. If you're going to miss, you're going to miss low. And so
most of the time, I'll still gas one every now and then. I'll never forget Foley 2 years ago. I was in the shoot down. On the second day, I was in the second peer group, and I had to end my day on target one, and it was it was a chamois, I think. And it was way down that lane, and there's roads down there that you can't see from the stake. And I shot him, and I don't know how the arrow stayed in the target. It was like wonder foam holding that arrow in that target, all the way to the ferret, all the way to the fletching, and shot my way right out of getting in the shoot down. Overjudged him horribly. But, that's this game.
Yeah.
That's this game. You learn from it, and you move on, and you start thinking about why did you overjudge that target, and you just file it away.
I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know how many, I can only be in one place, but just in the couple years that I've been there, I don't know how many times I've seen it come down to somebody needs this last arrow to get in and they don't get it, or, something goes wrong. To me, I would think that would be like devastating, but I've never been in that situation, but you have. What is that like?
I don't know that I've ever been in the situation where I knew I had to. Oh, I take that back. Kentucky this year, we were going through I didn't have a great first day, and I was shooting pretty good the second day, and we were maybe 4 or 5 targets left to go, and I looked up at the board, and you see, Gina doesn't tell me.
Right.
She doesn't tell me. Neither does Destiny. They take my scores and they leave.
Yeah.
And I happened to look up at the board, and I'm on it, and I'm like, holy crap, this might happen again, you know. So I knew I had to do well on the last few targets, and there were a couple of them were kind of short, and so it made me maybe a little more focused. But I wasn't thinking I have to hit 2 of these or I have to hit 3 of these.
Right.
But I did. I just played my game. I try not to think that way. I try to just play my game no matter what's happening. If I'm shooting poorly, I still stay with my game plan. And if I'm shooting well, I still stick with my game plan. You know, I've learned over the years, and Jack Wallace helped me a lot with this. You know, the game plan is so important. I've watched people have a good day going and then shoot an 8.
Yeah.
And say, oh, I got to make it up.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they get really aggressive. And what they do, they shoot another 8.
Another one.
And now they're even further behind. So they're, I got to get more aggressive. So what happens? They shoot another 8 because they're getting too aggressive. And I try to
that's
stay.
Me.
I try to stay with my plan, you know, the same way I practice here at home, the same way I shoot a local tournament, and the same way I approach the ASAs. The level of focus may be different, but the game plan is pretty much the same.
So did you ever think when you were starting out, when you got that first target bow and messing around, did you ever think you'd be sitting here talking on a podcast about winning the ASA Classic in the Senior Pro Division?
Never in a million years. Never would have thought it.
Archery, never, like when you were growing up, never thought that would be something you'd be doing now at this level?
Never thought about it. Nope. Because when I was young, I didn't know there were these competitions out there. I didn't know that there was a whole nother side to the archery. To me, it was about killing deer.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I was getting an extra month to hunt is what it was.
Right, right.
So, yeah. I had no idea.
I know I got into target archery because I remembered it was same thing, you know, I was bow hunting, and then I was like, man, I really like shooting my bow. If it's hunting season, that's only like a month. I'd like to shoot my bow all year.
That's right. And now I do. I get to shoot my bow all year long. And boy, it helps. And it helps during hunting season.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
It absolutely helps during hunting season.
So the indoor, you go to the Classic. Do you do some of the others, Vegas, Indoor Nationals?
It's the only one I shoot.
Just the Classic. And then,
I would like to do Vegas. But I have to get, you know, the first trip to Lancaster, I shot in the men's open class. And I think this year will be my sixth year of going up there. And I did well. You know, I made the cut. To me, that was doing well. I made the cut.
In men's open? Heck yeah.
Yeah. And I get to my first elimination match, and it's like my body just turned to jello. It was ridiculously, it was embarrassing almost, you know. Yeah. And then the next year, I made the cut in men's open, and I did the same thing. And then the next year, I made the cut in Senior Pro, and I got put out in my first match. The next year, I made the cut. I never forget it. I had Michael Braden, who is a very good friend of mine. Yeah. And we were battling back and forth, shooting pretty good. And I watched his third to the last arrow, the last end. I watched his first arrow miss for a 9. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I shot a 10, and that put me 1 point ahead of him, I think. And then he shot an 11. I shot an 11. I'm still 1 point ahead. Last arrow, he shoots a 10. All I got to do is shoot a 10, right?
Yeah.
Shot an 8.
Oh.
I shot an 8.
Oh, no.
I was shooting a hinge at the time. I couldn't make it fire. I mean, I was so nervous and so tense. The pressure in that shoot is ridiculous.
And that's something.
So it's crazy. And I'm working at getting better at it. I even locally here, I get in a place. I've got a place about an hour and a half from me that I shoot indoors. And I know everybody there.
Yeah.
Kids, I'm shooting against kids. I'm shooting against grown people. Some people have hunting bows, and I get in the shoot ups in that thing, and I'm a nervous wreck. And it's just different. And I don't know why.
Isn't that something?
Hopefully this year's better.
Well, that makes me, appreciate, because it's that pressure of getting into the finals. There just is no way to recreate that except to do it again and be in that position.
There's no way to do it. Last year I would consider my best year ever there. I made eliminations, and I shot the second highest score for the senior pro shot on the first match.
No kidding.
But the guy I shot against shot the highest score.
I
don't remember who it was, but he put me out. But he put me out with a smile on my face because I did well.
Yeah.
So maybe this year will be a little bit. It's a progress, It's a little stepping stone at a time. So we'll see. But the pressure there is so different. I was scared to death the first shoot down I made in Augusta.
Yeah.
I was scared that was what I was going to feel out there. Could you imagine trying to hit a freaking 50-yard javelina with that kind of pressure? No, I couldn't either. And it scared me to death, right?
Yeah.
But the pressure, the nerves, I would say, were different.
Huh.
They were different out there with 3D for some reason. I don't know what it is about indoors.
How about that? That's what makes me think of, people like Levi or Dan or Paige or Jeff Hopkins or Tim Gillingham or these folks that are in these so many times that it's just like that experience is hard to beat.
That's right.
I mean, they can make a mistake for sure, but I got to imagine their confidence is pretty high.
I imagine it is. And I'll tell you that this shoot down at the Classic, I had a high level of confidence.
Yeah,
and I had a calm on me that I'd never had when I had pressure on me before. Gene and I have had discussions about my inability to hit bonus rings in the shoot down.
Right.
I'm thinking, let's see, I made 4 this year. So if you take the first 3 and then the 3 years previous, 6 shoot downs, I think I've hit like 4 bonus rings. And one of those, I forgot to put my cone out for the upper, so it didn't even count.
Oh man!
But and I didn't feel that pressure like I do at Lancaster in those elimination matches. I don't know what it was. If it was being too timid, trying to be too safe.
Yeah.
Bow maybe not aiming as good as normal because of that. I wasn't super nervous. Heart wasn't racing, that kind of thing. But you still have tension, and
Keith, how do you make that happen again? Whatever happened to you at the Classic, how do you transfer that to Foley?
I don't know. I'm going to try to figure it out, though, because the Classic, I was calm all week.
Yeah.
I didn't have a good first day. I started the second day at the top of the third peer group. I was in.
Oh, okay.
No, I was in 9th place.
Okay.
I started the second day in 9th place. So, but I don't know. I can't put my finger on it except for experience.
Yeah.
And confidence, because I had a lot of confidence going into that shoot down. My bow is on point.
Right.
I told Darren this today. That bow, I built it in December at the Elite Verdict, and I haven't touched it but one time since then.
Nothing.
And I had to make an adjustment on it. It stayed, the strings on it, they're thread strings, and it has stayed in tune. And I haven't had any, and I need strings. It needs strings. It needed strings a month and a half ago. I wouldn't touch it.
You wouldn't check it.
No way. I wouldn't change the loop on it.
Is that
It just no, it's shooting too good. I didn't want to mess with it. I did not want to touch it.
That's funny.
But the equipment does make a big difference. You've got to have confidence in your setup.
Yeah.
And you've got to. And I have all the confidence in the world in these elite bows. And I just built my hunting rig last week and getting ready to go on an elk trip in a couple of weeks. And I'm shooting groups, coffee can size groups at 90 yards with fixed blade broadheads and field points. All hitting together. And it's awesome.
Man.
They're awesome bows.
So sitting here, I know I talked to Darren Christianberry about this, that he was just peaking in his game, and it was the end of the season. You win your first ASA tournament, and it's the end of the season. I mean, is that more, oh man, I wish I had more tournaments to shoot, or does that just kind of light the fire harder for going to next year?
I think it's going to light the fire for next year. I had a good season.
Right.
I finished third for shooter of the year. And to me, that's almost as big of an accomplishment as winning the Classic. I mean, these guys in that class are no joke.
Right.
My boss is no joke in this class. Look what he's done this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to light a fire. I'll probably start practicing a little sooner.
Okay.
Next year.
Yeah.
And I'll focus on the indoors. After my elk hunt, I'll start shooting some indoors. I'll build an indoor bow and I'll start shooting. And that helps. I think 3D shooters benefit from shooting indoors. I mean, there's no, you can be shooting a 3D course and make a bad shot and still have a decent score.
Right.
That paper, that little dime size 11 ring or X ring on a Vegas face doesn't lie.
Yeah.
So it's really good practice, and I think it helps me a lot for my 3D shooting. It grooves your shot. It lets you know what's going on, no doubt.
So I don't know if you're this type of person, but do you set goals going into a season? Like,
no.
I want it. You don't. Okay.
No, I really don't. I just do my thing. It's like my practice routine. I practice when I can. I don't have specific routine. I've got to shoot 200 arrows a day. I've got to judge targets. I'm only going to judge targets for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I don't do that. I take the time and I go do what I can when I can, and I don't really set goals. We all have goals. We want to win a tournament.
Hey, you want to win them all, right? Yeah.
We want to make the shoot down. Those are goals, of course, but I don't really set these expectations. Hey, I'm going to win shooter of the year this year. Do I want to win it? Heck yeah, I want to win it. Do I think I can win it? Yeah, I think I can.
Yeah.
This year proved a lot to me about my ability and my ability to be consistent.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to work on it.
Now, not to be the Debbie Downer here, Keith, but I am also 55, and so I know that things start to degrade. Can't always see as well, takes a little longer to get up in the morning, things like that. How do you keep that part out of it, or do you even think about that? Do you just go out there and shoot? And
I do think about it. When I was shooting Open A, I think I shot Open A for 2 seasons. I remember thinking, man, when I turn 50, I'm going to clobber these guys when I go up there. And then my eyes changed, and I had to get glasses. And I can't shoot in my glasses. I can't shoot in them. So I don't wear glasses when I shoot. That's why I have
me neither.
That's why I have my little magnifiers that you like to talk about.
I love them.
Right? So I can't see my sight tape. Excuse me. But I started seeing a decline in my sight, my vision. And then most noticeably in the last 4 years probably is my ability to hold a bow still.
Yes. Darn it.
And why? I mean, I'm in pretty good shape. My job, my lifestyle, keeps me in pretty decent shape. I'm strong. I can pick up stuff that a lot of young kids can't do, and I work them in the ground. But my ability to aim has been the most noticeable decline that I see in my shooting. So I just have to learn to shoot through it. As Burley Hall told me one time on a team shoot, he made a shot. And I'll say, Burley, was that a good number? He said, it was in my wobble. It was within my wobble. Right? And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So you just have to learn to shoot through it. You know, my pen just doesn't park itself on anything.
Right.
It moves, but I just have to trust it.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, we'll go back to the bow. Probably the best aiming bow I've ever had in my hands. And that helps a lot too.
Yeah.
But it's more than just the bow. It's the physical aspect of shooting. And, you know, I've been to coaches. I've been to Jack Wallace, and I've been to Gribb, and I've over the years, and I've talked to lots of people about it. And I don't think it's a form thing. I don't think it's a draw length thing. You know, we play around with that stuff to try to make it better, but I think it's an age thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's a reason. There's a reason why there is a senior pro class. For
sure.
And there's a reason why there's a super senior class and a senior master's class. So
that's
going to be me, man. I'm going to be shooting senior masters one of these days. I love this thing.
It's funny. I hadn't thought about it until you said that, you know, putting things together where it's in your wobble. And I know that I've been at full draw holding, and I've had people say, man, PJ, you're shaking real good. And I'm aiming, and I see the shake, but like to your point, I'm saying in my head, that's all right. That's normal for me.
Right.
That's not a bad thing. But I can tell if you're looking from the outside, it's like, man, why is that guy shaking so much? But
that's right.
You just don't hold it as good as you used to.
That's right. And the opposite side of that, I've had people watch me shoot and go, man, that bow is not moving. And I'm going, well, what bow are you looking at? Because my pen's freaking going crazy. So, and I'm limited on some things in my setup. I can't shoot a clarifier. Okay.
Oh.
So I shoot a 4-power lens with no clarifier. I shoot a 336. No, I can't. I can't see my pen.
Huh.
It's my eyes.
So you just shrink up the peep.
At 3/32 peep fits my shrewd scope perfect, and you know, I can see down there.
Yeah.
Can I see a 12 ring at 30 yards? No.
Right.
But I know where it is.
Yeah.
I know where it is. I can see enough to be okay. But these guys shooting, you know, to look at Tim, 6-power, 7-power lenses with number 4 clarifiers or whatever it is. There's no way. I can't see them. Can't do it.
I film some stuff with some of the younger guys, Jeff Rainey, and I remember standing at a target, and it was a 50-yard coyote, I think it was, and he says, "You see that hole that's just to the left of the 10 ring, or just the left side of the 12 ring there?" And I said, "No, man, I see a coyote. That's it."
That's right.
I don't see a hole.
There's a lot of times that, you know, I'll glass a target and I'll say, okay, there is a hole there, or there's a discoloration there.
Yeah.
And then I take the binoculars down and I can see it, you know. But when I look through my peep sight and through my lens, it's gone.
Gone.
Yeah, they're gone. Core lines, that kind of stuff that a lot of people use to aim on, I can't see it.
Yeah.
But I just, you know, when a new target comes out, I buy it. And I've got them all. And I've been doing that for I started building my targets up after my divorce, and now I probably got 35 targets here now.
Oh, okay.
That I have available to me, and so, you know, you shoot them enough, you start to learn where those rings are. What
are the
your
new
tendencies are?
What are the new ones for next year?
I've heard it's going to be an antelope, not an antelope, standing bear and impala.
Oh, impala, not the sheep.
I heard it was going to be an impala and a standing bear.
Okay, gotcha.
But I've already called Mark and I said, whatever they are, send them to me.
Yeah.
When you're ready, because I need those targets to learn to shoot at. If it's a new deer or something like that, all the deer are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I don't judge based on size. I mean, we do.
Right.
But I mean, if you've ever talked to Cara, which you have,
yes.
She knows the exact dimensions of every one of those targets.
Yes.
And she can tell you how tall it is, how wide it is, how long it is, and all these things. My brain doesn't work that way. I just have to look at it and judge it and go with it. I can't remember that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine if a standing bear, I mean, that would be a drastically different one to come back. I know it was in before, but it hasn't been around for a while.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
It wasn't ever in the rotation since I started.
Right.
I don't think. So, yeah, I'll buy one and I'll stick it in the woods. I may buy two. I may put one here at the house to shoot at on a regular basis, and I may and then put one on my range. So
right. You mentioned that you're going elk hunting. So what do the next several months until the Lancaster Classic, what do they look like for you? Is that a busy work season or?
Super busy at work right now.
Okay.
We got a lot of that going on. I've already started fixing up a couple spots around my house where I deer hunt. I've built my hunting bow, and that's what I'll focus on shooting for the next 2 months. Mm-hmm. We're leaving on around the 15th to go to Montana for 2 weeks.
Nice.
And try to kill an elk. And then I'll come home. The work will continue, and try to deer hunt when I can, and then start getting ready for indoor season.
Gotcha.
And we're rebuilding a house.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you know about that or not. So we have some property in Virginia that's 3 hours from here that we hunt on, and we purchased a little 100-year-old house on it a couple of years ago. And for 2 days at a time, when we have time, we go up there and we're rebuilding this house from the ground up.
Just because you needed something else to do, right?
I didn't have enough. Yeah, I had all this spare time. We worked this weekend like crazy, and it's tiring. We get home on Sunday night, 10:30, and get up at 6 the next morning to go to work.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
And then shoot the bow when we can.
And then shoot the bow.
We did it during archery season, too, you know.
Yeah. All right, folks, that is another episode of the Competition Archery Media Podcast. Keith Ahlstrom, 2023 ASA Classic champ. We appreciate your time today.
I appreciate you guys inviting me to do this. I've enjoyed it.
All right, folks, the CAM podcast is available on all the platforms, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Thanks for being with us today.